Do devs know what gamers want? I think it depends on the devs. Yeah. Yeah, it really depends on the devs, huh?
Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about, do devs know what gamers want? This video is a direct follow-up to my video last week, Do gamers know what they like?
It's
Before I
not
made
Tim the
that
Tap
video,
Man. It's
I
not.
just mentioned I was going to do it in a comment section almost 2 months ago. And Lyre Noir said, personally, I think do devs know what gamers want is even a better question. And you know what? They're right. So both that video, so I made that video and then I made this one pretty soon afterwards. Keep in mind, these were made back in November. Not even that late November, kind of mid-November.
It's kind of sad because it doesn't even need to be anything recent, because I feel like devs have been out of touch with what consumers want and what players want for a long time. And I think that also one thing that's worse than that is that they are oppositional to what players want. So it's not only that they don't know what they want, they do know what they want and they don't want to give it to them.
So I don't know what the comments were on that other one, and I have no idea what the comments are going to be on this one.
Doesn't read
I
the
think
comments.
it's better that way because I want to give you the
Yeah.
raw, unfiltered response to, do devs know what gamers want? And here it is. No. No, we don't
Okay.
know what you want. We have no idea,
Yeah.
seriously, what you want. I almost did this
There
as
it
a
is.
short. I was just going to do a short and go, do devs know what gamers want? Nope. And then cut it off.
That's the end of it.
You can stop here. If you want to know why it is we're so absolutely confused about what it is you want, keep watching. Because I know some of you are like,
Okay.
it's stupid. We know what you should know what we want. We don't.
Okay.
Here's the longer answer. And it's all kind of can be summed up as because you don't know either. But you got to remember, I'm saying the collective you. I wish English had the collective you. Southern English does. Y'all don't know what you want. Let me dive into
brother.
that. This is a deep dive on why y'all don't even know what you want, which is why we don't know what to give you.
Yep.
First off, many of you only tell...
I think that he's right, but I also think that he's half right. People might not know what they want, but they do know what they don't want.
developers what you hate. Great. You said what it is you don't want, but what is it you want?
Oh,
I have an entire video
Yeah.
on how to give good feedback, and I'll link it below. But I can just say, when you keep saying, I hate this in games, I hate this feature, I hate these kind of characters and all that, great. What kind of characters do you want? If you hate sarcastic characters, well, guess what? There's an entire realm of non-sarcastic characters. But what is it you want? Do you want funny characters? Do you want serious characters?
I think that a lot of people, like, everybody wants something different, right? And that's always the issue, is that, like, how do you please everybody? I think that people want characters that seem authentic, and they want characters that behave in ways that seem realistic, but at the same time, they don't seem like they're a facsimile of the personalities of the people that are making the game.
Do you want characters with a lot of background? Do you characters that with very little, that you don't want to spend a time in a wall of text dialogue? What do you want? That's why you have to tell us what you want and not what you don't want. But wait, there's more. Even when you say...
I think in a lot of those cases, it's not an example of, like, people want one thing or another. Like, you can have Elden Ring that's massively successful, and you can also have something like God of War that's massively successful. You don't really need to have, like, one specific version of it. I think anything like that could fit together. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 characters, exactly. And so, like, if you go to the grocery store, you're gonna get steak and ice cream. Usually, if you want steak, you're not going to supplement that for ice cream or vice versa. But you get both of them because sometimes you like both of them at the same time.
say what you want. You're often
Or at different
extraordinarily
times. Sorry.
vague.
Yeah.
You will say, I want a better game. I want better AI. I want a better UI. Yeah, I'll just slide the better slider from okay to great on all of those. I have an entire video on.
I remember when he said that, it just reminded me of my old guild leader whenever we were doing Sarthurian, 3 Drakes, and Wrath. He says, okay, everybody, open up your menu, go to configuration, go to interface, and I want you to find the button that says shit at the game and make sure that it's unchecked. And it was just out of fucking nowhere.
Why developers need context to your feedback.
Yeah.
That's never more truer than when you give feedback. When you give, especially positive feedback. If you don't say what you're talking about, it can be really vague. For example, what is better for you mean in a game? Or when you say, how is that AI bad? What are you talking about? What are they not taking cover? Are they just running straight at you shooting? What do you mean? When you say you don't like a UI, what is the friction point in that UI that you're encountering? What is it that's bothering you?
I think that Jeff Kaplan said it best, where he said that you can't rely on players to give you a solution, but you can sure as hell rely on them to tell you when there's a problem. And I think that's always the issue that a lot of game devs have, is that they have to effectively translate this sucks into like actionable behavior.
Say that UI is dumb, it's not helping. And trust me, it's not just gamers who do this. I've worked with people who've literally said that out of their mouth. They're like, that looks dumb. Great, I'll get right on that. Sometimes though, and you know, I've talked about how some UI issues are really an underlying system mechanic issue. This comes up in the videos on encumbrance, where you can have a really good UI if your game supports encumbrance, but you take encumbrance out and suddenly that same UI is terrible because people can carry more. And suddenly there's a lot more things in their inventory. And the UI you were using for a limited inventory doesn't work for a UI with an unlimited inventory.
See, this is what I was saying before about how, like, some game devs and people that are really, like, this guy made Fallout, right? Like, there's some guys and, like, people, right, women too, that understand, like, these second-order effects of, like, changes and, like, mechanics in video games. And that's why they make video games that go on to sell, like, millions of copies for, you know, decades. And this is the same type of insight that people that, like, made classic WoW or, like, you know, Baldur's Gate 3 or, you know, Elden Ring, that they're all the same. This is a smart way to look at it.
So that's why you need to be very specific about what it is you didn't like. Do you really hate that UI? Or do you hate that you can vacuum up everything? And or do you want to be able to vacuum up everything, but you just wish the game would somehow organize it better? Be specific. Here's the one that really gets me, and that many of you refuse to acknowledge.
Okay.
You all. Again,
so this is us. We are the ones who are wrong.
This had a plural you. You all do not agree on what a good feature is. Go back and watch both of my encumbrance videos. They're linked below. Or watch the video I had on fast travel. Or even the video I did on providing game difficulty, different options in there. Read the comments on it, which I know...
That's true. By the way, the correct answers are encumbrance is bad if it makes you spend more time managing inventory than playing the game. Game difficulty modes are bad, and they should be enabled through different types of gameplay, like things like Havel's Armor and Dark Souls 1. And I forgot the other one that he mentioned, but yeah, those are the correct answers and the right opinions to have. Oh, fast travel. Fast travel is sometimes good and sometimes bad. It's usually good, but sometimes bad. Wrong difficulties are great. No, they're not. They're bad. That's the wrong opinion.
A lot of you don't do, and you complain that YouTube doesn't do a good job of sorting them.
That's just not
pick
the right
one of
way to
those
look at
videos, set it to show
true.
all the comments, and scroll for a few minutes. You will find that some of you literally say you will not play a game that is lacking a particular feature
while you play that game,
and then keep scrolling, and you'll find people who hate games that have that feature.
Oh yeah, that too.
And it can be anything: fast travel, VO, walls of text, story mode. Some of you require it, and some of you skip games that have it. And you have reasons for doing it. I'm not saying you're wrong.
I think that really the issue, too, is like he's bringing up a lot of good points, is that you can't make everybody happy. This is one of the big issues that I think AAA development has, is that they have development budgets that are so big that they strive to make everyone happy because they need to have a target audience that's that big in order to like theoretically generate a profit. And because of that, that's why they end up making flaccid, boring games. It's because they try to just give everybody everything and then also implement everything that everybody wants. And it's just a bad game ultimately. So I think that's what ends up happening, is that you have them that they are listening to everything and there's no way that you can solve that problem.
What I am saying is there is no possible way to make a game that will make all of you happy.
Yeah, exactly. He's right.
What's interesting to me, and this channel has made me really acknowledge it, you don't even agree on the fact that all of you are disagreeing. Some of you don't acknowledge there are any other game players out there. There was a video I did where I said...
well, I was the same way. Like, when I found out... So, like, I remember whenever I was a kid, I assumed that girls didn't really play video games because they're just not good at video games. And, I mean, when you're 11 years old, I feel like that's a pretty default opinion, right? And, like, the ones that did play video games were bad. And so, like when I saw how popular like Animal Crossing was and Pokemon was with girls, I remember there was this one girl in high school that played Pokemon, and I thought she was a Pokemon. I was like, holy fuck, I didn't even know this was real. I was shocked.
People frequently want better graphics, but a lot of you ask for better graphics. And someone said,
shiny,
and I quote, no one asked for better graphics. I guess you never read a review and you don't go on any forum boards. Because yes, they do. And keep in mind, better graphics, sometimes they're just talking about they want a higher resolution. They bought a 4K monitor and they're upset they're not getting a game in 4K. Sometimes they want a farther view distance. They're upset that it clips really early. Or that there's always things blocking their view. They don't get a nice wide view of anything. Sometimes they just mean more creature variety or more location variety. These are all better graphics. These are all things that require a lot more art time, a lot more things to be loaded in, a lot better optimization of your engine. These are all going into the category of better graphics. And all of you, I guarantee, have asked for some form of better graphics at some point when you're responding to a question of what did you like and dislike about this game.
I think also, like, that's definitely true. And a lot of people
keep in
don't
mind,
know,
too, sometimes you guys talk about art style.
Yeah, it's art style, really. It's art style and, like, shading and colors, and that's really what people are thinking about when they say graphics. I think a lot of people distill graphics down to just meaning fidelity. And I feel like that's only one small piece of the pie.
But everything I just mentioned, even if the art style stays the same, you will need more polys and more textures and more everything just to give you more creature variety or more location variety. So just that means, it falls under the aegis of better graphics, but means more work, more artists, more time, more money.
Yep.
And many of you who say, well, I don't really care about graphics. I'm one of you. Graphics have never been high on my list of what I care about in a game. But many, many, many players are attracted to a game by its pretty graphics, even if they stay afterwards because the gameplay is so good.
That's true. Graphics are a really good first impression selling point. Like, people will look at a game that looks really good. Like, for example, that Dawnwalker game yesterday looked crazy good, right? And they'll be like, holy shit, this looks amazing. And I do think, like, if you have a low-quality game like that with bad graphics, that's how Genshin did so well, even though it's shit. Well, it did. Yeah, it looked really, really good. And that's also, like, art direction and, like, graphical style, too, more so than anything else specifically. Throne Liberty sucked me in with its graphics, but the gameplay and the core sucks. See, to me, it was the same way. Like Throne and Liberty was a game that the graphics and the style of the game, well, the style was kind of mediocre, but the fidelity of the game was really good. It's just that the gameplay was dog shit.
Graphics opened the door. I've told some designers under me, sometimes it's like dating. Your head may be turned by the prettiness,
Yeah.
but you stay because of the personality and the chemistry.
Well,
so it's like that with games. Make a pretty game, more people will at least get their eyeballs on your game. Then they're stay because of the mechanics. And then later on, they're deny ever even looking at your game because it was pretty. One of the things I want to point out is many of you argue against things that would make a game that even tries to provide more things for more players. And I've talked about how design by committee is bad, which I agree with.
Yes.
And usually that leads to making a game that's so bland and
He's
vanilla.
talking about Dragon Age Veilguard, by the way. It's Starfield.
That no one can really have an argument against it, but nobody really feels like playing it. What I mean by that is many of you literally have argued that games should have fewer game options. I'm not even talking about game difficulty, just fewer game options. I have a video on game options. I'll link it below. Again, read those comments. Many of you are going, yeah, I hate when games have a lot of options. I don't know what to set. The designer should have decided that. Why are they making me do that? That just means they didn't have a strong vision. Not ignoring for the fact that many of those options are there to let more people play the game. I'm colorblind. That's a disability. There are games I literally cannot play because they have puzzles or information that I'm supposed to pick up on that's color-based, but there are no color blindness options. The worst ones of these are ones that don't say up front that they do that.
Yeah.
And then later I'm playing the game and I realize I'm playing it wrong, or I've encountered puzzles that I literally cannot solve.
Yeah.
And there's no option to do so. Super frustrating.
That's accessibility, not difficulty. I think that one of the worst things to happen to the accessibility discussion in video games is for people to view disabled gamers as like retards, where like if you're a disabled person, maybe your arm doesn't fucking work. But that doesn't mean that you're an idiot. It doesn't mean you don't want to be challenged. So figure out a way for that person to play the game with one fucking arm. So, and the issue I think happens a lot where you have video games that their idea of accessibility is making the game so piss easy that it doesn't matter what you do wrong. You can flip and flop and flail around for 5 minutes, but if you get 3 hits on the boss, it's dead. Well, that doesn't really sound like a very compelling and rewarding experience, does it?
So let me sum up, because I've been ranting for a while.
Yeah.
I get
fake
that
accessibility.
you, the individual, want what you, the individual, want. But you have to realize that you, the individual, are not very good at giving developers feedback, and that you, the individual, are not everybody the game's being made for. Many of you aren't even in the majority, and I hear you. I don't think I'm in the majority. I like a lot of niche games. I've made a lot of niche games.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm saying here is game development is hard on its own, technically. But this lack of consensus among game players about what they want takes...
I think that what they should do is that they should make Dark Souls 1 again all the time. Like, basically everything that Dark Souls 1 did, just do that again. It's really simple. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, really, I mean, people try to overcomplicate. I don't think it's that complicated at all.
That difficulty to
Call of Duty?
New level. It's that much harder to make a game that you want to be popular, that you want to have a lot of sales, because most of you don't know what you want.
Yeah.
Those of you that do know what you want are very vague at expressing it. And many of you don't realize that what you want isn't what a lot of other people want. This is why, for most of my career, I just made what I wanted, what I liked. I hoped other people would like it, but it was me and the team just trying to make something we'd like that would make each other laugh, make each other have fun. And we were like, gee, I hope people like this. We weren't sure. We didn't care. And when marketing would ask us questions like, what's the demographic for your game? We didn't know. We didn't have an answer. And most of us, we didn't even care. We're like, I don't know. Why don't you go home and play the game and tell me what you think, who would like it?
Makes sense.
Many of you like my earlier games. Maybe it's because I did make them in a vacuum like that, and I wasn't thinking what people thought.
I think that
However,
it's
I can tell
definitely
you,
true.
my later
Yeah, like other like newer games, it does seem like a lot of times they're designed for a target audience. And I think that it's good to design for a target audience, but I feel like a lot of the best games are the ones that devs make for themselves. Like I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a really good example of that. So yeah, it's definitely true. The vision, yeah, it's like people need to have like their own internal vision.
games sold more copies. So what's the right path? I don't know. But I can tell you this. Do game developers know what game players want? No, we don't.
They don't. There it is. Yeah, I'll tell you that. I could have told you that automatically. Like, that was a fact. Like, a lot of players, the reason why they have trouble being able to figure out what people want, it's actually super simple, right? And, like, you're 1,000% right. Yeah, it's like you have to target, like, I think it's, well, for AAA games, I think the main reason is actually super simple. It's because they try to design it for too many groups of people, and you can't end up making all of those groups of people happy. You can make some of them happy some of the time, but you can't make all of them happy all of the time. And what ends up happening is that you have games made like Suicide Squad, like Dragon Age Veilguard, like Starfield. And I mean, the woke stuff is like kind of irrelevant, really. Like you take out all the woke stuff out of Dragon Age and the game's still kind of bland, right? Same thing with Suicide Squad. So like Concord, right? Even. And so like these things are maybe mining canaries, but they're really not they're not the real problem. And so I think the main issue is that games that are designed for everybody end up appealing to nobody. And that's why when you see small development studios that just make games that they think will be really fun and that they think people will like or that they like, that's whenever you see things really go well, I would say, more than anything. One of the main problems is games are being made mainly for adults instead of children and teens. For example, Nintendo targets children and teens and it has the least unhappy fans. The only thing that Nintendo fans complain about is lack of releases. Perhaps I'm blinded by nostalgia. I think that Nintendo definitely has more of a target audience and they have more of like consistent, like a continuous, consistent strategy. And I think that that's caused them to have a lot of success, definitely. So you know games are for kids and teens? Well, some of them are, some of them aren't, right? I mean, you have a game for Grand Theft Auto, you're having your kids play that. Maybe that's not the best decision, right? Or something else. Vampire Stars is an example of a good game made by a developer just to have fun and it ended up great. Yeah, I think so too. Children deserve really good content too. Yeah, I think so also. And so what ends up happening is that I feel like a lot of games end up being developed and they end up, I'll link you guys the video. I think this was a good video. And he's right that a lot of players want different things. And I think that developers fail when they try to just go with the thing that the most people want, rather than going with the thing that fits the vision of the game in the best way and the most comprehensive way. And I think that's a big mistake of what happens, right? It definitely is.